Hey y'all! Today we're going to be talking about color. So my joke ties into that. What did the green grape say to the purple grape? He said, "Breathe! Breathe!" That was funny. All right, so like I said, we're going to be talking about color today. You've probably seen these found object color wheels kind of going around the internet. A lot of art teachers are doing this right now. But basically, you take objects from around your house. So I borrowed a lot of toys from my kids because they're colorful and easy to find because they're everywhere. And you place them in the order of the color wheel. Okay, so we're going to break this down and talk about why these need to go in the certain color and not just this cute little image here. All right, so first thing you're gonna do, go ahead and get your objects just so you can have them to look at. You need something that is blue, purple, red, orange, yellow, and green. So go ahead and go get those objects now. All right, so now that you have your objects, you're gonna put them in this order, but you may be asking, why do they need to be in this order? All right, so let's break it down. Let's take out what we're calling our secondary colors, and we're gonna be left with our three primary colors. Okay, so we have blue, yellow, and red. Okay, so what does that mean, primary? Primary usually means first. So if you've ever heard something like primary school, that's the first school that you go to. So these are our first level of colors. These can't be made by mixing anything else. These are kind of our starting point for our colors. So sometimes my students ask, well, if you can't make blue or you can't make red, how do they get this color? So how do you get this color if you can't make red? A lot of times what people can do are use items found in nature, like red ochre, which is like a kind of like a red color sand or ground up rock, and then turn that into the pigment and go from there. Or sometimes, especially even in like food, they even use these little bugs that live on cactus. There's a whole bunch of them, and they let them dry out, and they use them and they put them in things like candy and stuff. So you might be eating bugs when you're eating red candy, so keep that in mind. But then they also can they can create synthetic pigments, which basically science get involved. They create different chemical compounds, and voila, you've got any pigment that you want to make. All right, so with our three primary colors, the colors we cannot just make by mixing other colors. So let's look at these in paint. So I have my little paint tray. I have my three primary colors. And these have to be separated. You need a space between each of your primary colors. So what's gonna go in here, we call these the secondary colors because it's the color that comes second. It's what you get when you mix your two primaries to create your second. So it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 2. All right, so if I take some of my red and some of my yellow and mix those together, I get an orange color. And when I mix some of my red and some of my blue, I get a purple color. And when I take my yellow and my blue, mix those together, I get green. Okay, so that's why those colors have to be in this order. So now this is the order of my color wheel. I've got my primaries separated, and between those I have my secondaries, and they fit between the colors that make them. So the orange has to go between red and yellow. Purple has to go between blue and red, and green goes between yellow and blue. So this is why our order has to be like this. All right, so let's take our objects again, place them back in our order now that we know where they need to go. I can start with my primaries, and then between my yellow and blue, I can place my green gator here. Between my yellow and red, I've got this creepy orange spider. And between my blue and red, I've got my purple flower. So that's how we get these objects. That's how we get the order that these objects need to be going in. So now what we're gonna do is kind of take this project up a level, not just putting these objects down together to create the color wheel. So what I want you to do is look at your items. So we're gonna pick some of these items and go ahead and pick at least 3 for a drawing that we're gonna be doing. So I'm just gonna take 3 of these, definitely not the creepy spider. So I'm gonna use these 3 things. So I've got my gator, a little ducky, and a Lego. Okay? All right, so now what I'm gonna do with these is place these and create a still life. A still life is just like it sounds. It's a picture that you're drawing where everything is still. It's typically not like an animal, because if you're trying to draw your cat, most likely your cat's gonna get up and walk away, because just that's how cats are. They're totally rude. If you're trying to draw a person, you know, you're gonna blink or move or little things like that. So still life drawings are items that don't move, they stay still. Okay, so typically you'll see these with like fruit, glassware, instruments, a lot of items like that. All right, so you're gonna create your own still life. Like I said, this is my example here. I've got this little gator, a Lego, and a duck. And I'm gonna place those, however, I want them, you kind of can't see them because they're gonna be from a different angle than what I'm looking at. All right, and then look at those and start sketching out the initial outline of the shape. And if you pick something that's maybe a little difficult, don't get overwhelmed by it. Really break it down by shapes. Like if you had chosen maybe this flower, okay, start with the easiest part of it, okay? Break it down, little circle here, okay? Start there, we can all do that. And then think about what are these other shapes that I'm seeing. I've got these long oval shapes, got smaller oval shapes here in the middle with this texture there. And just worry about small pieces at a time instead of getting overwhelmed by the big picture. So it's important when you're drawing your still life to not move the items. You don't want to pick it up and look at it from different angles. You really want to focus on drawing what you see. It doesn't matter what the back looks like or the top if you can't see that at the time. So really focus on how you're seeing it and what is right in front of you. All right, so before we start with our still life drawing, it's important to remember to sketch your item. We've talked about this before. If you're in 5th grade or maybe someone who's not one of my students, maybe you haven't gone over this before. So I'm gonna do just a quick review on what sketching is as opposed to just drawing. So if I was going to draw a circle, usually what I mean when I say that is I mean one continuous line. A lot of times this looks darker and you're kind of committed to that shape because you can't really erase it, you can't make changes as you go, you're stuck with it. So if I was going to draw a circle, it would look like that. But if I was going to sketch a circle, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to use short little lines. And when I say that, I don't mean short little lines, okay? We're not looking quite so much like a dotted line. We want them to be like nice and light, and they're going to overlap as you build your shape. The good thing about using these little lines is that you can make modifications and changes as you go. So it's good to use those short little pencil strokes so that I can make changes as I go. A circle is pretty basic because we can all draw those without looking at anything. We know what they look like. But if you're drawing someone's face or if you're drawing from a still life like we're about to, you can constantly check what you're drawing and make those changes as you go, as opposed to committing to one shape and then not being able to make it change without still seeing all the eraser marks. All right, so when I'm talking about drawing what you see, not what you know, you really focus on the item that's in front of you. So if I showed you this apple, you would want to try to draw it just as whatever you were looking at the time. So for example, I took a bite out of this apple. So if I turned it around, we know that bite is taken out of the back. But if I'm looking at it this way, I can't see it. So I don't need to worry about drawing it because in my perspective, it's not there. So I don't need to worry about drawing it in. Does that make sense? All right, so now I'm gonna start sketching out my still life. So how you're seeing it from the top view is not quite the same angle that I'm looking at it from, so I took a picture of it so you can see what I'm looking at, because it's not gonna be the same from your above me perspective. All right, so for me, when I'm starting a still life, I like to start usually from the center point and work my way out, because I feel like that's a good way to make sure everything is gonna fit mostly on my page. But that's totally up to you where you wanna start. If you wanna start with the easiest part, you can start there as well. For me, I'm gonna start with the rectangular shape of the Lego, because it's just a good place to start, right in the middle, and it's a basic shape. All right, so now I have a basic outline of my still life that I've created. And from here, if you wanna just leave it at that, that's fine. You've got some practice in drawing, you've got some practice in observing and sketching, so that would be great. If you want to incorporate some shadows, that would be even better. Pay attention to, again, what is actually in front of you. But for those of you that are kind of new to shading, the easiest thing I can tell you is anytime you've drawn an outline of something, start there as your darkest point and then fade it to light. So an example of that could be, like I have this Sharpie here. So if I were to sketch that out, okay, you can even kind of tell, I have got a window on the right side, so it's a little bit brighter on the right, but the outside edges are a little bit darker, and then it's fading to the lightest part near the top. And I even have some highlights. These little light glares along here, these are all highlights. So you would leave those white on your page. If your objects have anything shiny, or if there's a spot on them where they're reflecting light, you can leave that part white. All right, so now we have our still life. It's pretty much done. I did a completely black and white. If you wanted to do this in color with colored pencil, you could do that as well. But I wanted to just leave mine with pencil sketch and really focusing on drawing what I see and how the objects were placed and making sure I'm paying attention to the shadows if you moved on to that part. If you didn't and you just did the shapes, that's okay too. All right, guys, well, I hope y'all had a good time with your still life sketch. I hope y'all have a good rest of your day. See y'all later. Bye.